It was the 11th of February in Sapporo, which meant the snow was piled higher than the parked cars, and the pavement in front of the little patisserie on Kita-ne had been shoveled 4 times since morning. The shop was called Fujimura. It had 11 kinds of cake in the case and a bell over the door, and it had been in that spot since 1972. At 4 in the afternoon, a woman came in with snow on her shoulders and stood at the counter for a moment before she said anything at all. "I have an order for Saturday," she said. "Sugawara, A number 7, strawberry," with the writing. The girl behind the counter found the card. "Yes, Sugawara-sama, 4 o'clock Saturday. Everything's ready to go. I need to cancel it." The girl's face did the thing that young faces do. "Oh, is Saturday not? We can move it if the party's changed. No, cancel it, please." The woman's voice was perfectly level. "I'm sorry for the trouble." There was a small silence. "The deposit," the girl said, apologetic. "I'm sorry, on cancellations we can't. That's all right. I understand. It's my fault for canceling late." The woman was already turning her purse over in her hands, and the sound it made was the sound a purse makes when there is nothing in it but coins. "Could I ask, how much is one of the small shoe? The plain ones?" 180. She counted it out on the counter. 100 yen coin, a 50, 3 tens. She got it wrong the first time and had to start again, and her hands were not steady, and she apologized for that too. "And do you sell candles?" "Just one. We put them in free with the cakes. I'd like to pay for it." The girl gave her the candle and would not take money for it, and the woman said thank you twice, and then said one more thing, quietly, while she was putting the little box into her bag. "If a boy comes in here in the next few days, he's 7, he's got a green coat. He sometimes stops and looks in the window on the way from school. Please don't mention the cake to him. He doesn't know it was ordered. I'd like to keep it that way." Then she said thank you again and went out into the snow, and the bell over the door rang, and that was the whole thing. It took about 90 seconds. At the far end of the counter, a man in a black overcoat had been standing the entire time with a box in his hands, waiting for his change. Shigeru Anzai was 58 years old. He had been the head of the Anzai organization in that part of Hokkaido for 19 years, and the girl behind the counter did not know that. But the owner in the back did, which is why the owner had come out when he arrived and gone quiet and personally handled the order, as he did every year on that date. Anzai stood there for a long moment after the bell stopped ringing. Then he put his own box down on the counter and said, "Fujimura-san. Come out here, please." Her name was Nema Sugawara. She was 34. She was Tanzanian, and she had been in Japan for 11 years. She had come at 23 to study, met a man named Naoki Sugawara at a language exchange in a community center in Sapporo, and married him at 26 over the loud objections of both families, who came around within about 18 months, as families generally do. He had worked for the city water department. He was a serious, quiet, extremely funny man who could not sing and sang constantly. He died 2 years and 4 months before that afternoon of an aneurysm at 39 on a Tuesday at work with no warning at all. She had a mortgage on a small flat, a survivor's pension that was real but was not enough, and a son called Tsubasa, who had been 5 when it happened and was about to be 7. She worked hotel housekeeping from 7 until 2, and 3 evenings a week she did a shift at a bento factory in Higashi-ku from 6 until 10. On the evenings her neighbor Mrs. could take the boy. That was the arrangement, and it worked, in the way that those arrangements work, which is to say it worked until anything at all happened. In January, 2 things happened. The boy had an asthma attack at 11 at night and went in an ambulance. And the ambulance was free, but the emergency care was not, and the follow-up was not, and the inhaler was not. And the heater in the flat gave out in the second week of a Sapporo winter, and a heater is not a luxury in that city in January. It is the difference between a flat and a hazard. And the emergency call-out and the replacement came to a number she did not have. She had ordered the cake in the first week of January, when the shape of the month still looked survivable, and paid 1,500 yen down on a 5,300 yen cake. And the balance was 3,800. And on the 11th of February she did not have 3,800 yen, and would not have it by Saturday. That is the entire story of why a woman cancels a cake. There is no drama in it. It is arithmetic, and it happens in that country and in every other country roughly 100,000 times a day. On the Friday night she sat at the kitchen table after the boy was asleep and did the sums one final time to see whether she had missed anything, which she had not. She had planned it carefully, the way you do. The shoe would go on a plate with a candle in it, and she would say that this year they were doing something different, a special small one, just for the two of them, and she would say it brightly enough that a 7-year-old would believe it. Because a 7-year-old will believe almost anything if his mother's face is doing the right thing while she says it. She practiced the face in the dark window over the sink for a while. Then she wrapped his present, a second-hand basketball, cleaned with a cloth until it looked very nearly new, and went to bed at 1 and got up at 5:30 for the hotel shift. On Saturday afternoon at 4:10, the bell rang at her door. It was a delivery man from Fujimura with a white box, and inside it was a number 7 shortcake with strawberries and Tsubasa-kun, Otanjibi Omedit piped across it in pink. She said there had been a mistake. She said she had canceled it. She said it 3 times and got louder because she was frightened, because a cake she could not pay for at her door was not a gift, it was a bill. The delivery man read the note the shop had given him and said, in the flat sing-song of a man repeating something he does not understand, there had been an error in the register. The deposit had been applied against a February promotion. The cake was paid in full. There was nothing owing. The shop apologized for the confusion, and Nema Sugawara stood in her doorway in a building corridor in Sapporo, holding a cake box in both arms, and cried so hard she had to put it down on the floor. Tsubasa Sugawara turned 7 that evening in a small, warm flat with a cake with his name on it, and he ate 2 pieces, and he told his mother, with the total confidence of a 7-year-old delivering good news, that this was the best one they had ever had, better than last year, and that Daddy would have liked it. She got through that. She has said it took some doing. She went back to the shop on the Monday. She had thought about it all weekend, and she did not believe a word of the promotion story, because she had worked in retail in 2 countries, and there is no promotion on earth that upgrades a canceled cake into a delivered one, with the correct name piped on it, in the correct color. She went in, and she asked the girl behind the counter, directly, and the girl was 19 and folded in under 4 seconds. Fujimura himself came out. He was 71 and he did not fold, but he did tell her one true thing, which was that he had not paid for it, and had been asked not to say who had. Then tell him, Nema said, that I want to pay it back. I'm not asking for it to be free. I'm asking for the number, and I will pay it in installments, and I'll pay 100 yen a week if that's what it takes. But I am not taking money from a man whose name I don't know. Fujimura looked at her for a while, and then he wrote a time and an address on the back of a receipt and told her to go on Thursday at 3, and to be extremely polite, and not to ask anyone in that building any questions. The building turned out to be an ordinary 2-story office over a car park in Chiku, with nothing on the door. The men inside were not what she expected. which is to say they were exactly what she expected, and she was walked up a flight of stairs into an office where a man in his 50s was standing at a window with his back to the room, and she recognized him instantly as the customer who had been at the end of the counter on the 11th with a box in his hands. She said what she had come to say. All of it. Fast. Because she had rehearsed it on the train, and she knew if she stopped she would lose it, that she was grateful, that her son had had a birthday because of him, that she would never forget it, and that she was going to repay every yen, and that she needed him to accept that. Because if he did not then, what had happened was charity, and she had spent 2 years keeping her family upright on her own 2 feet, and she was not going to start being a person things were done for. Shigeru Anzai listened to all of it without turning around. Then he said, "It was 5,300. You had paid 15. I paid 3,800 yen." He turned around. "Sugawara-san, I am not going to take 3,800 yen from you in installments of 100 yen. It would take you 9 months, and I would have to think about it every week." Then, "It's charity." "Yes," he said, "it is. Sit down, and I will tell you why, and then you can decide whether you want to be angry about it. And if you still do, I will take the 100 yen a week, and I will never say another word." So she sat down, and he told her about Sora. Sora Anzai was born in 1996 and died in February 2003, at 7 years old, of leukemia at the Children's Hospital in Sapporo. His father was not there. Shigeru Anzai was in the 3rd year of a 4-year sentence at the time. He was brought to the hospital twice during the illness, both times escorted, both times briefly, and he was brought to the funeral in the same condition, and he stood at the back of a room full of his wife's relatives with 2 officers behind him, and was returned to the facility the same afternoon. His wife left in 2005. He does not blame her, and has said so publicly once at a memorial service, which shocked everybody present. Every year on the 11th of February, he said, "I go to Fujimura's and I buy a cake." Number 7, strawberry, no writing. I have done it for 22 years. I take it home and I put it on the shelf and I sit with it, and in the morning I throw it away. Because it is not for eating, and because there is nobody in my house. He looked at her. On the 11th of February this year, he said, "I was standing at the end of that counter with a cake for a 7-year-old boy who has been dead for 22 years, and I listened to a woman cancel a cake for a 7-year-old boy who is alive." He shrugged very slightly. "Sugawara-san, what exactly do you imagine I was going to do?" Nema Sugawara did not say anything for a while. Then she said, "What was he like?" And she has said that of everything that happened that year, the thing she remembers most clearly is the way that question landed on him, that a man in his position at 58 had apparently not been asked it in a very long time. They talked for 2 hours. He got out a photograph. She told him about Naoki, who could not sing and sang constantly, and about Tsubasa, whose name means wings, and Anzai said, Sora means sky, and then neither of them said anything for a bit. She did not repay the 3,800 yen. What she did instead was propose a piece of business, which took her 4 weeks to write up properly, because she is not a woman who walks into a room with a feeling. It was this. Fujimura's shop would keep a standing fund. Any parent in that ward who came in and could not pay for a child's birthday cake would get one. No forms, no proof of income, no story required. Nothing to sign, and above all nothing said out loud in front of anyone else in the shop. There would be a card by the register with one line on it. If you can't manage it this month, tell the counter it's a Fujimura Saturday, and it's handled. Anzai read it and asked what the budget was. 200 cakes a year to start, she said. And you don't get a plaque. And it doesn't have your name on it. And it doesn't have his name on it either. Because the whole point is that nobody has to know anything about anybody. Who runs it? I do, said Nema Sugawara. That's the part where you're paying me. And that's how I'm not taking charity, so you can stop looking at me like that. She ran it out of a folder for the first year, part-time, in the evenings, while still doing the hotel shift. In the second year, Fujimura's daughter brought in 2 more bakeries. In the fourth year, it was 11 shops across 3 wards, and a genuine small foundation with an accountant. And by then, Nema had left the hotel and the bento factory and was doing it properly, with a salary, which she negotiated hard, because she had spent 2 years learning exactly what her time was worth. The rule about anonymity has never been broken. There is no plaque. Anzai's name appears on no document connected with it. The funding runs through a trust with a very boring name. They have given away something over 4,000 cakes. Tsubasa Sugawara is 14 now. He is tall, he is loud, he plays basketball badly and with enormous commitment. And he knows a quiet older man called Ansai-san who comes to exactly 1 school event a year and stands at the back and leaves before the end. And who once, when Tsubasa was 9 and asked him straight out what he did for a living, said, as little as possible these days, and would not be moved off it. The boy does not know the story. His mother will tell him when he is older. She has said she is not in a hurry, because it is not really a story about a cake and he will not understand it until he is old enough to know what it costs to keep a household standing on 1 income in a cold city. And on the 11th of February every year, Fujimura's takes an order that nobody has to place anymore. Number 7. Strawberry, no writing. It is paid for out of the fund, which is to say it is paid for by 4,000 strangers who never knew they were doing it. And it is delivered to a house in Cheku, where a man sits with it in the evening and throws it out in the morning. Nema Sugawara handles that order herself. She has never once mentioned it to him, and he has never once mentioned it to her, and both of them are perfectly aware that the other one knows. That is the arrangement. It is held for 7 years.